Hello, hello, fourth grade. I wanted to review a little bit of history and tell you about a few things. You know what your assignment is to read the pages, but I just wanted to review a little bit with you because you will want to know some things that we have talked about. The 13 original colonies are divided into three groups: the New England colonies, the Middle Colonies, and the Southern Colonies. We live in the Southern Colonies. Up north, we have in the New England colonies, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Notice that Connecticut and Rhode Island are connected to each other. And you are going to want to remember, for each colony we introduce, what is the major city or settlement of that colony? And what person was responsible for helping to start that colony or something significant in that colony? So you should be able to say New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island are part of the New England colonies. New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware are part of the Middle Colonies. And the Southern colonies are Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and know where they are on the map as part of your geography. So play this over and over if you need to for the next few days, and you will be able to learn all of those, okay? Don't forget the Great Lakes and the rivers that we talked about before. We talked about the Middle and Southern colonies last time we introduced them. We talked about the Dutch and the English and the French all had a claim in the New World. Who won out? That's right. If you said the English, Great Britain, they won out. New York was the area they had a claim for, all of them. The Dutch, the people from Holland, had a claim there. And they called it New Amsterdam after Amsterdam in their home country. And New Netherland was the name of the whole colony. So Amsterdam was the name of the major city, and New Netherland was the name of the whole colony. So today it's New York. It was New Netherland. And instead of like New York City, it was New Amsterdam. But when the English overtook the Dutch, remember Peter Stuyvesant, their leader, governor, he surrendered. He realized they could not overthrow the English, and the English won out. And that's when it was changed to New York and the major city, New York City. So you need to remember New Amsterdam became New York City, and the name of the whole colony, New Netherland, was called New York after that. So that's what we talked about last time. Now we're on to this time. You were to read these pages today. And if you're reading this the next day, it's okay, as long as we get it done and don't get too far behind. Delaware is the name of the next colony. So last time we talked about New York. Now we're talking about Delaware right here. What happened in Delaware in that colony and the founding of that colony? Well, that Sweden became interested in the colony, okay? The people of Sweden wanted a colony, and there were about 50 settlers that came. And look, whenever there's something underlined, you know that's important, don't you? The first successful settlement in Delaware was at this time, was settled by the Sweden, or the Swedish people, or the Swedes, we could say. They were farmers that came to settle there, and they made this fort. See, there's a picture of their fort in our book, Fort Christina, the name of the Swedish fort, and it's in the area of Wilmington, Delaware today. Now, don't confuse Wilmington, Delaware. We have a Wilmington in our our state too, don't we? But this is in Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware, a very well-known place even today. So the Dutch took over all of Sweden in 1655, but kept it for only 10 years before the English took it away. So the Swedish were here in Delaware, then the Dutch overtook them, and then finally the English won out once again. You can see a pattern here of the English expanding their rule from each colony until finally they control all of it. That was Delaware. Then there's New Jersey. New Jersey is another colony. New Jersey is right here, right next to Delaware and Pennsylvania. And remember the clue I told you? You may have some clues that help you remember, but if you use your imagination, what does that look like? Yeah, that's right. It looks like the leg of a cow, doesn't it? And we have a Jersey cow. You've heard of that before? Here's the thigh, big part of the leg. And then there's the part that if you look at a cow, you'll see it sticks out there. A lot of rudiments do that. Animals, deer and things too. And then there's a little hoof there. So maybe that will help you remember. That's New Jersey. Well, here's New Jersey. Cross the Hudson River from New York. And again, the Dutch claimed New Jersey, as they did Delaware too. And the Dutch settled, as you read here. There's New York. New Netherland was New York now. And what does it say down here? Dutch began the first permanent settlement in New Jersey. It's interesting, it says the first permanent settlement. The first permanent settlement in New Jersey was begun by the Dutch. Now there were other settlements. Of course, we know the first permanent English settlement, we know of Jamestown, but this is the first permanent Dutch settlement. And it was where? New Jersey, that they were able to start one. See, the Dutch started settlements in several places, but they weren't permanent. They dissolved or were overtaken. But this time they had a permanent one. And so that's something interesting and important to know. Okay. Now you're going to see, as you read, there's two people here. You're going to need to remember these people, John Berkley and Sir George Carteret. And these are men that gave New Jersey its name. They did some very interesting things, and hopefully you will read it or have read it. They offered land to allow, they offered it at low prices for the colonists, so they could have land and they could have freedom of religion. And so they brought many colonists there that were seeking religious freedom. They came to New Jersey, and Baptists, Presbyterians, all of those were some that came. The Declaration of Independence, some of the signers of the Declaration of Independence lived here. So Sir George Carteret and Lord John Berkeley, know those names. The Duke of York in turn gave New Jersey to two of his friends. And these are his friends, Sir George Carteret and Lord John Berkeley. And these men gave New Jersey its name. Question: what colony was claimed by 3 countries? What do you think? Did you say New York? If you said that, you are correct. Why did England have a claim on New York? You remember what we had learned about before? Yes, because in 1497, John Cabot claimed all of North America for England, including New York, because New York is in let me say that again. New York is in the New World, is in North America. And so they were saying, well, we've already claimed it. We claimed all of it. Number 3, which colony was named by Sir George Carteret and Lord John Berkeley? We just read it. What was it? Who gave that colony its name? These two. Which colony was it? Yes, New Jersey. See, New Jersey. These men gave New Jersey its name. What fort did the Swedish people build to protect themselves? What was the answer? Did you say Fort Christina? Remember, we saw the picture? Fort Christina. And who built Fort Christina? Yes, the Swedish people, or the Swedes, did that. And so there we have it. We have what we were going to talk about today. Let's see, we could read a little more, because that would cover, let's see, that would cover Monday too, if you want to read to page 62. That will be what we do on Monday. So I'll just read a little bit about it. And this will be for Monday too, but to 60 is what I said to do for Friday. Look, Pennsylvania. Now, we know of Pennsylvania, if you know anything about Pennsylvania, the name itself, you've heard this story before in 3rd grade, if you were at this school. Penn, P-E-N-N. Doesn't that sound familiar? Yes, remember William Penn? William Penn, who was a Quaker, wasn't originally a Quaker, but became a Quaker. We're going to talk about the Quaker. Pennsylvania was the Quaker colony, or it was a place not only for Quakers, but for people with maybe they were called more extreme religious views. Those kind of people came. So, there could be Moravians, Mennonites, and people like that. Quakers would flock to this colony. But in 1643, the Swedish settlers, wandering from Delaware, began the first settlement in Pennsylvania. The small settlement was later named Chester. Chester was the settlement in Pennsylvania, that first settlement. So Chester, Pennsylvania, the settlement, just like we have our other settlements, Hartford, and Boston, and others. Well, let's go back to England to think about this. Way back in England, remember the separatists and the Puritans, those people that wanted to separate from the Church of England or to purify the Church of England, the other group did. Religion was often a reason for coming and starting a colony. And look, Catholics settled in the New World, separatists, Puritans, all these people had beliefs that were considered strange, and they were not welcome in some of the American colonies. But in this one, it would be different. Now, Rhode Island was open to different ideas. That one was also had complete religious freedom. But Pennsylvania was another one. There was a group called the Quakers, also known as Friends, the Friends or Quakers, who had what many considered extreme beliefs, but they were their beliefs. Let's look at what some of these things. For example, they were not popular because the Quakers did not believe that one person could be more important than another. They did not show more respect for one person than another. So they wouldn't take off their hat to show respect to someone. Neither would they bow to anyone, not even to the King of England. And the Quakers did not believe in any kind of fighting. So they were non-resistant, they would say. They would not fight. They would not go to war. They would not even defend themselves. But these were their beliefs. And they have scriptural belief, scriptural backing for these. So sincerely strong beliefs. And so, but they were just looked down on by some. Now, as you can see, the Quakers' beliefs were quite different than the other groups. So it doesn't quite fit in, but they were very peaceful. They were loving, they were quiet, but they were often arrested for these beliefs. So they didn't want to go to those colonies where they would be beaten or threatened or treated badly. And so this man, William Penn, is going to become very important in this colony. He became curious about the Quakers. He'd heard about them. He wasn't a Quaker at first. In fact, his father was a military person and thought, my son, how can you even be thinking about something like this? Be manly, go to war and be heroic. And so for his son to do this, he was saddened. But William Penn saw something good in these people and what they believed, and he wanted to find out more about them. And so it wasn't long before he became a Quaker too. He said, yes, I think this is a good thing. I think it's good to be peaceful. I think it's good not to be fighting and going to war and all of these things. And some of these other Bible teachings, he believed. And like I had hinted at before, his father was this military admiral, the British Navy. And, this didn't go well with him. You can imagine how angry he was when the son said he was going to become a Quaker. He was hoping his son would go and be an important person in the military too. But William would not, because the Quaker beliefs he had and not believing in fighting or going to war. Now, Penn's father was well liked by the king, but William, being a Quaker, would not show respect for the king. Penn's father was also a very wealthy man, but because of his Quaker's beliefs, William did not feel that wealth was important. He didn't think money or those things were even important. Try as he did, William Penn's father could not change his son's mind. After his father died, Penn remembered that the king had borrowed a large sum of money from his father and had never paid it back. Penn knew that the king would never give him a Quaker the money, but perhaps the king would give him land in America to begin a colony for the Quakers. The king was pleased with Penn's idea. Not only could he easily repay the debt by giving Penn land in faraway America, but he would also rid England of the troublesome Quakers. All these Quakers are going to go with him, and it just seems so strange to him. Yes, we'll do this. And so what happens? They start this colony, and it's called Pennsylvania. The word Penn, as in William Penn, is in the name Pennsylvania. And the king named the colony Pennsylvania, which means Penn's woods. There were lots of trees and woods. Penn's meaning William Penn's woods. In 1681, William Penn sent a group of settlers to choose a good place to build a town. And then the next year, they brought colonists to Pennsylvania. And Penn himself went to the Native Americans and asked them to sell land to him. He reminds me of Roger Williams, doesn't he? And some of those that were friendly and fair to the Indians and peaceful and loving. Look, here's William Penn, founder of Pennsylvania. There's a picture of him. His conscience told him it would be wrong to take land from the Indians, and the Indians agreed to sell land to their new white friend. Then William Penn told the Indians that Quakers did not believe in fighting. They would never carry guns or knives to hurt the Indians. In return, the Indians promised peace to the white men. As a result, Quaker children played with Indian children, Native Americans, and the Indians paid the Quakers neighborly visits. There was no fear of Indian wars for many years. They never carried a gun. They never carried anything like that. So there wasn't any threat. Later on, there would be this place called the City of Brotherly Love that we know of as Philadelphia. Look, there it is, Philadelphia, the largest and most important city in the Middle Colonies. The City of Brotherly Love. Penn began making plans for a beautiful city in the colony with gardens and trees and houses and roads, all of these kind of things. And Philadelphia means City of Brotherly Love. Doesn't that make sense? Here's a Quaker colony. They were full of big love. They weren't fighting. They were loving, right? They were brotherly love. They called each other brothers. You know, the plain churches, such as the Quakers, they would say brothers, right? And other churches do that too, where you're a brother in the Lord or a sister in the Lord. So this brotherly love. People of all faiths would welcome in Pennsylvania. Penn believed that no one should be forced to believe the Quakers' beliefs. That was one thing that was different than some other groups. Pennsylvania had much to offer new colonists. It had farmland and other things for them to start to live on. Settlers came from many different European countries seeking the peace and freedoms that Pennsylvania had to offer. And before long, Pennsylvania became a very important colony. The major city here is Philadelphia, the City of Brotherly Love. The major city, there was a small settlement that first started in Pennsylvania that was called Chester. Okay. In Pennsylvania. It was just a little settlement. But Pennsylvania is the one that grew to be the major city that we know about today. Most of you have heard of Philadelphia, but you probably haven't heard of Chester, have you? Who found Pennsylvania? That's right, William Penn. What religious group was Pennsylvania founded for as a refuge for? Which group, which religious group was it? Did you say Quakers? It was founded for the Quakers. That was the group of religious people. What was the main settlement in Pennsylvania? Personally designed by William Penn. The major settlement in Pennsylvania was, did you say Philadelphia, the City of Brotherly Love? Oh, I hope that you did, because if you did, then you are remembering what we've talked about today. So I've combined two lessons into one today. If you've watched this video, you have watched what, Friday, September 24th, as well as for Monday's lesson. So you've watched Friday and Monday's lesson. So just keep practicing your geography and know and understand what we've talked about here, and you should do well. Any questions? Well, if you do, you can always ask me or send a message. And I want to say, learn something new every day.